have created one class called class A. So class A, and in this class A, we have declared a variable under the private access specifier. In the data hiding, when you are performing data hiding, means you must have to declare the variables under the private and methods under the public access specifier. Once again, I'm telling you. So all the methods must be declared under the public access specifier, and all the variables of that particular class must be declared under the private access specifier. Why? Because you want to protect the data. So that is what we'll call it as data hiding. So if you want to protect the data, then how can you be able to access this? Because of the same class methods uh, can be allowed to access, okay, the variables of that particular class. That is what we did here. So here you can observe this. We have implemented a display method. This display method, just we are displaying the X variable. Okay, here we have created an object of that particular class, and by using this object, we have just okay called the display method. So here, if you just execute this program, compile this program once again, and execute this program, you'll get 100. Even though it is a private access specifier, how can you be able to access it? Because of this display method. Because display method is public, so that's the reason we can be able to access the private members. This concept, entire concept is called it as, okay, data hiding. Okay, you can see here. So once again, let's see this data hiding. Data hiding is the process of combining the data and functions into a single unit. This is also called it as an encapsulation also. And the ideology behind the data hiding, okay, which is to conceal the data within the class. This is most important. That means you have to protect the data from the outside world. So maximum protection you have to give to the data. So how can we able to give the maximum protection? Only by declaring the variables. Okay, data is nothing but a variables, no? By declaring the variables under the private access specifier, you can be able to, okay, uh, protect the data of that particular class. Then, so preventing the direct access from the outside class. This, whenever you declare the variables under the private, it always protects from the outside world. Okay, they won't access accessible from the outside world. So this is one thing. And how to access it helps the same class methods. Okay, so to access that particular variable. So here we use how private is helpful, how public is helpful, and how protected is helpful. These three things you have to remember. So private. So private, when we use a private, only for the variables of that particular class. So the data members are the variables often declared under the private access specifier, which will directly protect, okay, to your class, which prevent the direct access from the outside world. Okay, so for that purpose we'll use the private. So when we use a public, public will be used only with the methods. Okay, so public is used to manipulate the data, whichever the data you have in the class, to manipulate the data of that particular class. Okay, all the methods of that particular class will be declared as a public. Why? Because the methods should be accessible from the outside world. That's the reason. So the methods are usually public, okay, which is used to manipulate the data present in the class. Okay. And one more most important point is that this is the most important point. That means the data should not be declared with a public access specifier. Variable should not be declared with a public access specifier. If you declare, then what will happen? Outside people also can be able to access your data. There is no protection. Okay, so that is most important. Your data will not be hidden. So that's the thing. Next, but the public members can be accessed, okay, of the object of that particular class. Okay, so when to use this protected? Protected will be used only you have the inheritance concept and the subclass. That means your father is having a car, and you want to use that car, but your father told you while okay giving that car, your father told that you don't give to your son. In such situation is called it as okay protected will become a private to the child. Protected will become a private to the child. So that's the reason uh, will be used as protected. Protected means the methods which are private within the class are available to the private access in the derived class. Okay, derived class key, it is a private access to the derived class when we use a protected. So these are the things you have to remember as I've shown one program. This is also another program. Okay, here you can observe this. Here I have not used a private. Even if you have not used a private also, some people are coming now. I don't know why. Okay, private also. These variables will be by default will be okay private only. So here by default is a private. Read, there are two methods existed. These methods must be declared under public access specifier. Then I have written the code here. It is taking the number variable and it is just displaying the number. Okay, so what I have to do, I have to create an object to this base class. Okay, so base class object I have created, and whatever the methods I have in that class, read method and print method, I have just called the read method and print method. So then this is going to be the output. Okay, so first you have to enter 12, then it display the 12 onto the screen. This is what we'll call it as a information hiding. With this I have completed unit 2. Okay, all the topics of unit 2. Comes to unit 3. This is the unit 3 syllabus, which consists of three things. One is called inheritance, one of the most important concept. Virtual functions is also most important, and polymorphism. All the three concepts are very, very important and very easy also. So first let's start with the inheritance. Okay, inheritance. What is inheritance? As I've just now I told that if your father is having a car, okay, you need not to buy the same car. Let's say Tesla Model X. Okay, if your father is having that same car, you need not to buy again the Tesla Model X, because you can directly use your father's car. There's no problem at all. This is exactly called concept. This concept exactly called it as inheritance. That means acquiring the properties from the parent to the child. Whatever your father is having, that may be a members. Okay, members of that particular class or the variables of that particular class can be used. Okay, in the next subsequent subclasses, okay, or child classes. So what is a child class? Which is inherited from a parent, okay? So which is inherits another class is called it as a child class. The another name for the child class is called a derived class or subclass. There are three names. One is child class, derived class, or subclass. Comes to what is a parent class? Parent class is a class which is being inherited. That means so parent is being inherited, okay, by the other class, that is called a child class. Okay, the another name for the parent class is called super class or a base class. Okay, so this is the thing. Let me show this. Okay, this is one class and this is another class. Okay, and in this class, let's say you have a variable called int x, and we have a method called void display. Okay, and here let's say we have a variable called int y and a method called void show. Okay, this is what we'll call it as a parent-child relationship. So this is exactly called it as a parent-child relationship. Okay, so right, this is what we'll call it as a parent class. This is being inherited class, that is called a parent class or a base class or super class. Any name you can call. Okay, so this is a parent class. Now this class is called it as child class or subclass, derived class or subclass. Okay, this is what we'll call it as the inheritance mechanism. Means, so this class name, let's say this class name is a parent class, let's say P. This class name is, let's say, child class, this is called C. Then this is exactly called it as the inheritance concept. Okay, that means if you want to, this child has a capacity to access X and display methods, even though those two methods are not existed in the child, not implemented in the child class. By creating an object for child class, how to create an object? C obj object. By using this object, you can be able to call all the okay variables, like okay, y is equals to 30, because y is a variable of the C class, okay, child class. That's why you can able to call directly. Then object dot, okay, show method. This is also of the child class. There is no surprise, but the surprise is that you can be able to call its parent class variables also by using the subclass object, a child class object, that is obj.x, where that x is existed in the parent class, but even though you can be able to access it, okay, you can able to assign some value to this. And even you can also call obj.display method. So this is, that means in a parent class you have only two methods existed, but in the child class having two, that means only one method is existed. But in a child class we have only one method is visible, but there are two methods are existed. Virtually one method is also existed from the parent now, so that is also visible to the child class. So in the same way, X is existed in a parent class, that is also visible to the child class. From the child class, you can be able to access for two variables and two methods. So this is what we'll call it as inheritance concept. So that means a child class can able to acquire the properties, that means the variables or the methods, okay, from the parent to the child, okay, is called it as inheritance. So inheritance is a process of acquiring the properties from or behaviors from the parent to the child class is called a inheritance. How to write the inheritance is most important. So parent class will be written like a normal class, and while declaring the child class, you have to give a colon. This is most important. Give a colon, then access specifier, like it may be a public, private, or protected. Then after that, you have to mention the parent class name. Okay. Then whatever the implementation you want to do, just do it. Okay. So this is most important point. The colon always specifies the inheritance mechanism. After the colon, you must have to specify the access specifier, then space the parent class name. Okay. So this is the information regarding the inheritance. So this is enough for today. Hope another sir is waiting. Sir, are you there? Yes, sir. Ravinder sir.